What are the best practices for managing new employees? Hey, it's Scott Beebe with Business on Purpose, and we're delighted to be able to liberate you from the chaos of working in your business to make time for what matters most. Make sure to take 7 minutes. Go to the mybusinessonpurpose.com/healthy, and that's your owner healthy assessment tool. You'll get an actual metric as to the health of your business. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was really interesting. Ernest Shackleton's ship, the Endurance, was located about 10,000 feet beneath the ocean's surface near the Antarctic. And it's this one ship, 144 feet long. Shackleton's crew included Ernest Shackleton plus 27 other men, and they had one aim, and that was to be the first to cross the Antarctic continent. Now, there's a foundational reality in where you're at and where I'm at right now. Your seas are changing. The weather patterns are becoming more unpredictable. The swells today might be 1 to 2 feet. In an hour, they might be 5 to 8 feet. Tomorrow, they might be 10 to 12. The next day, they might be 3 to 4. Chaos is the standard, and unpredictability is the new predictable. So we have a choice. We can either take our existing boat out into the unpredictability of the seas, or we can learn from what the seas are telling us and build a different boat. Thinking about Shackleton and the adventure that they had, this trans-Antarctic adventure, knowing the tumult of the Antarctic, had he gone back, do you think he would have taken back the same boat? No, of course he wouldn't. He would have built a better boat and designed, frankly, a better map. Now, I think it's really interesting when you look at the route of the Endurance. Think about the timeline. The Endurance was actually trapped in January of 1915. So it had already been out onto the open seas, coming down past South America and coming down here into the Weddell Sea, and it became trapped in January 1915. Then in October of 1915, it became crushed. And on November 1915, it sunk. So for 11 months, they were trapped and they were isolated within the Weddell Sea and the ice breaks that were happening there. There was nothing. There were no trees. There was no shelter. There was nothing outside of what they had in the boat. And then this group, this heroic group, departed their isolated spot with their boat already sunk in April 1916. So think about that. About 16 months after they had become trapped in the Weddell Sea, they were able to depart. And not until August 30th of 1916 was the final crew rescued. And you know what's fascinating? Every single member of this trans-Antarctic expedition was rescued, was saved. All 28 men. 28 total men, barren ice, torrential weather, full days of either all light or all dark, and every single person made it out alive. But in order to survive, Shackleton had to display what we call the RPMs of navigating hard things and of managing people. The first was this idea of repetition. He did the same thing over and over and over. Now, it's said, I had a manager tell me this, that repetition is the mother of all learning. Repetition is the mother of all learning. Repetition is the mother of all learning. He would always say it 3 times. Now, I get made fun of in my role for being sort of a one-trick pony. Hey, we want new content, Scott. You always talk about this idea of repetition. Here's the challenge. You are not in need of new content. You might be listening to this piece of content either by video or podcast right now, or maybe reading an article on it. We don't need new content. What we're in need of is implementing the content that already works. Joe Calloway said, vision without implementation is hallucination. Methodical repetition beats Hail Marys and home runs every day of the week. For 18 months, Shackleton's men were forced to endure harsh climate, unrelenting sun and darkness, starvation, isolation, and probably the worst reality of all, no day-to-day purpose. Trying to swing for a home run for them meant certain death. But base hits, repetition, that's what equals life. I want to show you something. It was actually Shackleton's daily schedule. Notice what happens in the morning, 6:30, every single morning, whether it was completely light outside or completely dark. They would wake up. They would light the stoves. They would get the day going, even though there was nothing to do other than just to stay alive. 7 o'clock, they would emerge from the tents, and then throughout the day, he had a a schedule of chores and cooking and hunting and exercising the dogs and all sorts of things until they finally round down the day around 5:30 for dinner. And then evening, notice what he wrote in his diary: read aloud. Read aloud. He wanted to keep an element of camaraderie together. And by 10 o'clock, it says all is quiet except for the first night watchman. And every hour, somebody is on assignment. So even with nothing to do, how do you manage people? You give them great repetition, even when there are not super impactful things to do. Creating that idea of repetition is really, really important. The second thing to do in managing great people is to create a culture of predictability. Predictability is proactively building the right stage of culture embedded within existing repetition. Creating predictability is found in the old sailor's creed. I really like this. He who is enslaved to the compass has the freedom of the seas. He who is enslaved to the compass has the freedom of the seas. Predictability means agreeing on the true north of process, the true north of vision, mission, values, and the true north of people, and then working the process like a good navigator works the instruments. I've got a big win from my week last week, and it's this. We shared our 12-week plans and our 12-week goals with each other at our team meeting last Tuesday. And I want you to look at this list. This is a list of many of the things that are going to get done in the next 12 weeks in our business, but you know what's interesting with this list? None of these are my task. Those are all tasks that have been delegated to other team members, and they have owned those tasks. How do we manage people? We do so with great predictability, creating a predictable schedule. Check out this picture of the men while the boat was still there. Before it had wrecked, they're on the ice caps here, and they're recreating, they're playing, they're doing whatever they can do to try to create a predictable schedule every single day. We need to be doing that in leading people, is creating predictability. Now, there's something that we ask ourselves all the time. Am I micromanaging, or should I micromanage? Well, here's an easy little test to give yourself. We call it the Seesaw of predictability. Basically, we're asking ourselves the right questions at the right time. The right questions at the right time. If you ask the right question at the wrong time, hey, can you get me last week's sales reports? But you do it on Friday night, 11:37 p.m. through a text, while you should be sleeping or hanging out with your friends or family. That is the right question to ask, weekly sales reports, but it's the wrong time, Friday night at 11:37 p.m. That's micromanagement. The other option is to ask the wrong question at the right time. So the right time may be a team meeting or a weekly check-in, but you ask the wrong question. Hey, where are sales reports from 6 years ago? It's the wrong question. Anytime you ask the right question at the wrong time, or the wrong question at the right time, that's micromanagement. But when you ask the right question at the right time, that leads to healthy leadership. The third element that we need to bring into managing people, not only repetition, predictability, but also meaning. Asking specific questions at specific times to specific people. We have a business mission, and that's to liberate business owners from chaos. And there's a variety of ways that we do that. We do that through a predictable team meeting with a meeting agenda. We do that through predictable check-ins where we meet with each one of our team members each week to ask them certain questions, intentionally invasive questions, so that we can get great feedback. We also leverage our master process roadmap, so every one of our team members knows exactly the processes we're required to run. And then we have what we call a culture calendar. These are all the elements of great culture. No, not beanbags, unicorn rides, and soda fountains. I'm talking about team meetings, check-ins, remembering birthdays, vision days, all the things that are repetitive that we need to lay out there. That's how we build great culture. New employees, new team members are less concerned about the technical expertise from day to day, and they're more concerned about having access to what they need to succeed and feel connected to the culture. So how do you manage people? You bring great repetition, great predictability, and great meaning to every element of what you do. And when you do that, people can begin to run towards the vision. Go check us out, mybusinessonpurpose.com/healthy, and get your healthy owner metric there so you can start working on your business instead of working in your business.